know what she said. She might just change your life.
Well, we have lots of people who have made their plans for Valentine's Day, and then we have people who are having trouble connecting with a Valentine. And given that it's, just a few days away, we have a quick guide to the dating world with relationship expert Victoria Lorient-Faibish for all those Valentine's Day romantics. Good morning.
Good
How are
morning.
you?
So nice to be here, ladies.
So, first of all, can you explain to us what your practice is? You're a registered psychotherapist.
That's
How
right.
is that connecting with people and relationships?
Well, the whole philosophy that I have been kind of creating over the past 20 years is this notion of we need to find our self-culture. We have our family culture, what we bring down from our families, our patterns of behavior, our ways of relating to ourselves and others, and that family culture will influence us to create a self-culture, a set of patterns and ways of being, and then that, of course, impacts our relationship culture, and we tend to repeat the same patterns over and over.
Okay, so I'm not clear on the self-culture.
Okay,
so I'm part of a family, I'm married, I have children. I'm a mother, I'm a wife.
Yes.
And so where does the self-culture...
Well, if you've got to fill your own cup first, create an overflow in order to be okay in the world. Often people will operate from an empty vessel, and that'll be a lot of resentment that I notice in my office. People not really happy to experience life if they're not taking care of themselves first. And that's what I call a self-culture, an authentic voice. What is self-culture? You have the loudest voice in your head, as opposed to everybody else's opinions, everybody else's voice.
So in the real world, though, day to day,
Yep.
what does that look like, looking after yourself
It looks
in
like,
your world?
I would say that it looks after, you've got to take care of this person. So am I okay? Where am I at? Am I doing what it takes to be at peace with myself and others? Am I exercising? Am I meditating? Am I being kind to myself? Am I judging myself? And if I am, can I work on that? To not be so hard on yourself, to be a little bit more compassionate with yourself. I really feel that's a major step toward wellness generally. And then in relationships as well, we've got to really know who our authentic self is, because people are making choices from their false self often, especially in the dating world.
So how is that different from the me generation?
Well, I think that there's a huge difference between narcissism and selfiness, and what I call selfiness, because narcissism is a complete disregard for other people's feelings, thoughts, just I don't care what you think or say. Mm-hmm. However, in terms of selfiness, it's a different experience in which we're saying, I have a purpose, a voice, a value, and I'm going to listen to that. When I'm full, I create an overflow. From that overflow, I help and relate to others. So I believe the planet actually benefits from people being filled with self-culture. I really do believe the planet benefits because people are operating in community because they don't feel like they're so empty.
So is this a sophisticated version of what we've always heard since childhood, which is if you have to be happy first to make somebody else happy?
Absolutely. Yeah, but it's a way to, what is culture? Culture is a set of patterns, a set of things that we inherit, sort of repetitious ways of doing things, and that's really, you got to do that for yourself. You got to find out what your actual, and we have neural pathways that associate with each one of those behaviors.
So if that isn't working right, does that sabotage good relationships?
Yes, what I
with
see.
men, let's say, or with women, or with whomever you want to partner with.
Oh, cover all the bases.
Well, because,
all relationships,
yes,
all
relationships.
Absolutely. I think that if you don't take a moment to know what your inner motivations are, what your inner truths are, what I see very often are people who have been married for 10, 15 years or longer, and they say, wow, this person I chose when I didn't know myself. I started dating and I started pleasing and acting out of guilt and acting from a sense of what they wanted and trying to please them. And then, 10, 20 years or 15 years later, like, wow, now I know myself. Now my true self is here. And that person is absolutely wrong for me. So that's what I'm trying to avoid, is a person, when they're in the dating world, when you get into the dating world, get in touch with the true inner who you are, what your motivations are. Work on yourself before you go into that other world.
And what about all the people who, when they do figure out who they are, are still going to pick the wrong people because I wouldn't know the right person if I fell over them. And
I don't
and
believe
I
that.
know I have other friends who are the same. We consistently pick the wrong people. If I pick a person, I sure as anything that person's going to be totally wrong for me. So
Here's what I believe: we're either winning or we're learning.
yeah,
And so
you're right.
you know,
well, I'm doing a
so-
lot of learning, but
so
I'm not
learning-
getting, it's not getting me
But
anywhere.
learning is really important because can you learn from the lessons at hand, or do you have to keep repeating them? Does it have to? Can't you learn? I want people to learn from when it's a whisper versus when it's a hammer over their head.
So how do you spot a dysfunctional relationship?
Well, that's one of the things I talk about in this book, Connecting, Rewire Your Relationship Culture, is what is narcissism, what is codependency, what is commitment phobia. Some people can't recognize it, can't actually spot it. So for example, many people get involved with narcissists and they don't know that they're involved with a narcissist because they're so charming. They're so seductive. They're so enveloping. And you got to kind of spot, are your needs being listened to? As soon as you relax, are they out the door? As soon as you have needs, are they gone? That's the commitment phobic. Or is there this manipulation of the push-pull, guilting, overly caretaking, overly functioning, or these are the patterns I speak about so that people can actually recognize what's going on in their relationship. Is there a dysfunction that they need to address versus just ignoring it and normalizing it because that's what they saw in their own family culture?
We are speaking with Victoria Lorient-Faibish, the author of Connecting, Rewire Your Relationship Culture, here on What She Said on SiriusXM 167. So you talk here on my notes about something that I don't understand or even really appreciate the term, but we heard it a lot with Gwyneth Paltrow, conscious coupling.
Well, she
and
talked about conscious
uncoupling.
uncoupling.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the other side. Now,
Yeah.
what is conscious coupling?
Well, I love doing premarital therapy. So couples that are about to get married and they either go to their church, which is fine, or to some place to do some premarital work. But I love doing it in the office, and we do like a premarital checklist. And the premarital checklist, really, we're challenging the couples to talk about things that will show up in their relationship. And I would say money, sex, relationship with family, which is huge.
Your crazy parents.
Well, exactly.
And parenting ideas.
Parenting ideas, which is huge. You have
Division
they don't
of labor.
They don't talk about this when they're dating and they're having. I want people to really mine inside their thoughts, feelings, patterns, expectations, and really get clear on what exactly is going on with respect to how they feel about kids, money. Are you a debtor? Do you respect money? Do you want to see your parents every single week? Do you want to see them 2 times a year, 3 times a year? Okay, we're good.
So
we're
how many
good with
people have split up after a session with you?
that. Well, it's happened once, but generally speaking, it brings them closer. It definitely brings them closer, especially with the concept of let's get on the same page about money. Let's get on the same page about kids. Who's going to be looking after the kids? Do we want kids? I have a couple who, she didn't want kids. He really wanted kids, and they never talked about that. And they were set to be married in like 3 months. I was like, are you serious? We need to really resolve this. Because I don't want you to be having children. Because what gets me up in the morning, ladies, is this. Let's see if we can stop multi-generational dysfunction. Putting it on the
Isn't
kids.
everybody's family dysfunctional?
Yes.
I mean,
I
I would say 99% of people from issues and patterns.
I remember when the term first came out, I was 14 years old, and my friend across the street, we sat on her stone wall, and I said, by the way, do we know any functional families? She said, no,
But then
I
you
don't think so.
But then you have the functional families who they become unprepared for the dysfunction that's out there, where they're very loving, extremely safe, everything's fantastic, and the thing that I hear is, oh yes, well, now I'm in the world and that's not at all what's happening, and no one's going to love me like my dad, and no one's going to protect me like my family, and no one, and there's that too. So it's both sides. There's both aspects, and no matter what, when we're out there experiencing people, we're going to be repeating stuff that we've seen for the generations, and it's up to us to see if that's working, if that's healthy, if
So-
that actually fills us.
Well, still on the issue of function and dysfunction, who decides what's functional and dysfunctional? I mean,
I'll tell you who decides.
Isn't dysfunction functional?
Well, here's what is the deciding factor. My first book was called Find Your Self Culture, Moving from Depression and Anxiety to Monumental Self-Acceptance. What decides it is, do you feel depressed and anxious as a result of what you experienced in the family?
Right.
That's what determines it. If you're fine, if you're well adjusted, I mean, I don't know a person who hasn't gone through some stuff with the capital S. But, you're either in an alleyway with a needle in your arm, or you're figuring it out and you're empowering yourself.
Well, we are going to take a break here at What She Said. When we come back, we're going to get some insight from Victoria Lorient-Faibish about how to stop that emotional dumpster diving.
Yeah. More stuff. We'll talk about more stuff.
More stuff. And, how not to get fooled by the love drug,
Big time.
especially on this Valentine's
This is good.
Day weekend. So stay with us. More coming up right here on What She Said, SiriusXM, Channel 167.
And we are back with Victoria Lorient-Faibish, a psychotherapist, and we're talking about relationships. Now, you have here the 4 keys to a long-term, passionate relationship. And what are they? Because I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that would love to know, and whether they stand the test of time.
Look, I really do believe in long-term passionate relationships. I've been in one for 25 years, so I get that there's a possibility. It's not easy. It's a lot of work, but key pieces are, number 1, if there's a problem, if you've made a mistake, fix it quickly. Fix it quickly. Apologize. Own your stuff. Own where you've made a mistake. That's such a healing experience in relationships. Another one is, I have to say, good sex often. It's important. It's absolutely important for that neural pathway. It's a use it or lose it situation. If you don't use the neural pathway of sexuality, and many couples as they go on, they let it go. They put their energy into their kids, into their pets, into their jobs, into their hobbies. But what about that third entity in the relationship called the relationship? There's the self, and then the relationship, and that requires a lot of energy, time, sexuality. Kindnesses on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Kindnesses on a regular basis. Appreciation, saying, nice things to one another. Really important. People forget to do that. They take it for granted. They take each other for granted, and they don't create that special experience with the person. And I believe it's possible. Again, I come from a 25-year relationship. I really do believe that is possible. And
Well, you encourage, with kindnesses, you encourage more of the same
Reward the good.
behavior.
Yes.
Exactly. If you say to somebody, thank you, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Then they
People
kind
feel
of,
valued.
They feel valued, and they're liable to do it again and again.
People need to be each other's cheerleaders as well, and to feel safe emotionally with the person in their life. In other words, that person in their life, that no matter what, they won't shame you in public, they won't betray your confidences, they are your best supporter, and they're your cheerleader. Huge, important piece. And I would say that trust is really important, and so I'm all about, transparency, in all regards.
Let me ask you one thing. Everybody who talks about relationships talks about the hard work. We've all heard it a million times.
Well, it's not easy to...
So what does that hard work entail?
When you're in a bad mood and you want to take it out on your partner, you're being conscious and mindful of the words that you're saying. And if you say something mean or kind of, snarky, you're going, you kind of, John Gottman, sort of the father of couples therapy, said, if you've got a problem, if you've made fix it quickly, get in there, apologize. Oh, I'm sorry I spoke to you that way. I'm so sorry. And it's not about walking on eggshells at all. In fact, it's the opposite of that. It's just being mindful and owning your words, being responsible. We are all entitled to be angry, irritated, but we are responsible in terms of how we express it.
So the work involves, for example, being very self-aware of what comes out of your
Absolutely.
mouth, the looks that you give people,
Right.
but
We're not victims. We're not victims. We're not here in life and going, life has done this to me. No, we are the masters of our experience. We are the more we take responsibility, and by the way, I'm not saying blame. Mm-hmm. I believe they live on opposite sides of a spectrum. blame and responsibility. I say we take responsibility. We don't self-blame. Self-blame is going down the rabbit hole of absolute hell and nowheresville. But personal responsibility is full of opportunity and full of learning and full of growth.
Now, communication, would that be part of the hard work? Because I know
Yes.
a lot of men would consider that to be, that would be really the mother load. Like, oh my,
Yeah.
she wants to talk all the time.
Although
And
we
how
need
do
to-
how do we bridge the gap where they're okay with it? We're not.
We need to honor that many men find the healing and solace and regrouping in caves. And they need to go into their caves. And we need to honor that. We as women want to do more communicating to find our solace and our healing.
Yeah, but
So-
while they're doing that, particularly my husband, okay, it's out there. I feel it's very passive aggressive because he will brood on something for 3-4 days, and I know something's wrong. Like whatever it is, we should talk about
Right.
it because if you come back at me in 4 or 5 days, I'm not going to be able to remember exactly what I said.
Write it down.
So I don't know what he's cross about.
Right.
Or if he's brooding with something, it's like, no, everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. And then whammo, day 4. Okay, now I'm ready to talk. It's like, well, I'm not because you pissed me off so much brooding like this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't want to talk about it.
It happens all the time in my therapy office where, it's like, he's been in his cave for 3 days, like, what the heck, but you've got to honor that. It's part of
Yes.
you've really got to.
Well,
You know,
except for that is
but it's
something that
temporary.
I think really,
Boundaries,
really,
though. Ladies,
really
boundaries.
divides people.
No, hang on. It's called ground rules. It's called boundaries. It's called knowing really declaring what each person needs and saying, hey, listen, this is not about you. I just need to go into my cave for a while and I need to figure this thing out. But I will come out the other end. I'm not abandoning you. I will come out the other end and I will come and speak with you. And that's the commitment that he or whomever needs to make.
Yeah, but for me, for example, and I know other people feel the same way.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of something, and then somebody says, I don't want to talk about this right now. We'll talk about it later. And I'm...
We need the rules
And-
of engagement.
No.
We need rules of engagement.
But nobody's going to be happy. Sure, I'm not going to force him.
Yeah.
But I'm so frustrated. It's like having foreplay with no sex. I mean, I'm so frustrated.
I
I'm
can
ready.
deal with it.
I'm ready to talk.
No, but hang on.
And then I'm put on hold for 2 or 3 days, and I'm furious.
But that's
and
like
I resent
fighting,
that.
But fighting like that, in my opinion, is literally like a train full speed toward a brick wall. If you're going to engage in any kind of conflict management in the relationship, which, by the way, we all have in relationships if you're human, you need some rules of engagement and you need some tools to fight fair. I'm all about, you got to fight, you got to have anger, you got to have your feelings, you got to be real, but let's do it in a way that's not reckless.
Victoria, do you bring this up to couples that are about to get married?
Darn right I do.
Really?
Darn right I do.
Rules of fighting?
Yes, oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
So important. I teach people how to fight. I teach people how to do it in a fair way, in a way that is not damaging and resentment building. That is what the rewiring is about, or we're just repeating the multi-generational dysfunction that we were talking about earlier.
Do you believe in soulmates?
It's interesting. Soulmates is sort of a buzz thing, a buzzword, and I'm very spiritual. I believe that soulmates aren't necessarily our partners. I believe that soulmates are often the people that challenge us to be extremely on our game. Now, sometimes we don't want our partner to be our soulmate. Sometimes we just want our partner to be our sanctuary. Just the person that we can relax with. So sometimes we have many soulmates, our best friends, and sometimes those soulmates will be with us for a period of time, and then they're gone. And they taught us something. They taught us something really strong. And sometimes we don't want that particular person to be the person that we spend our life with.
So, you talked about how people change with time.
Yeah.
They change with
If they're
time.
doing some work.
Some of the best relationships I know are people, and I know 6 couples that have been together since high school. First dates. They tried breaking up for a little while, Some of them.
Yeah.
Some of them didn't, like straight through, high school, university.
Mm-hmm.
Happy? Are they
lives.
happy? Do you know
Very
that?
happy.
Yeah.
As
Okay.
I said, 6 of the
Yeah.
happiest couples I know.
Brilliant.
Absolutely love one another. Absolutely
Stunning.
a team. Absolutely. There's no, when you're with people and you just feel that.
So they're soulmates, but they're soulmates that obviously they are kind of like journeying together. They're
Yeah.
journeying together through.
Growing together.
Exactly. But it may be a different kind of a soulmate where it's not as challenging. Maybe they're experiencing the challenges together. They are in that. So the soulmate experience, I think we don't want to say, oh, I'm looking for that one soulmate. I really feel that there are many ways to do that particular experience.
Well, I've often thought that, look at all the countries in the world. Look at all the countries I've lived in. England, Canada, Australia. It's like, I went out with people in
Yeah.
each country. There had to be someone. There's not just one person
Yeah.
out there for me, although apparently now there is. Well, you know what? We're going to head into a break. Can you stay with us? Because this is
Sure.
fascinating. We'll stay over on the other side of the break and talk a little bit more with Victoria Lorient-Faibish, the registered psychotherapist and a holistic psychotherapist, about connecting, how to rewire your relationship culture. So don't go away. We'll be back here at What She Said on SiriusXM 167. What's going on in the control room? There's our producer and our technical operator dancing away and looking very good, ladies, doing it together. And
Looking
how deep
hot.
is your love?
Oh, it's a nice song.
Oh,
Now, how deep
favorite.
is your love is one of the subjects that Victoria Lorient-Faibish talks about in Connecting, Rewire Your Relationship Culture. We
Yeah.
have determined in the commercial break that Christine goes after alpha males and Casper milk toasts aren't her thing, but that could be a problem.
maybe.
Yeah.
I think you gotta. I think it's
There's
time
good
to
guys
wanna
somewhere
have
in the
good
middle,
guys
right?
out there.
There, yeah,
The
yeah,
supporters, the cheerleaders, the
yes,
you're awesome.
yeah.
you
But
know?
they're beta males, and I'm not. I'm in it. I am really attracted to alpha males.
I would
That's
challenge you
where
to
the
look at
attraction-
that pattern.
Yeah.
I would challenge you to look
So
at that pattern.
where I feel chemistry is with an alpha male. I don't
Right.
feel chemistry with a beta.
But maybe the chemistry is kind of a different. It's a percolative thing that you're attracted to that might not be working for you.
Well, I have
So-
lots of friends,
Yeah.
male friends, lots of them.
But here's what I believe, our brain is an elegant machine that is adaptable, and you can rewire your instincts through repetitive new behaviors and new thoughts and new understandings. It's just willingness to be open and flexible to see it differently.
Will
and
I live
believe
long enough to see this, though?
I think we're never. I mean, listen. The brain that changes itself. Incredible book talks about neural pathways, and it's never too old to change. We're never too old, and in fact, the more we change, the more we challenge our patterns, the more we can do. We can experience a whole new a whole new life. Absolutely.
So what comes first? What should you try to establish first in terms of intimacy? Does physical intimacy, generally, if you're hot for someone, that tends to overshadow everything else, but should you...
I don't want it to, though.
Right, okay, so...
Yeah, so oxytocin is this incredible biochemical... The love drug that is constantly coursing through our veins and increasing when we snuggle, have sex, when we snog, when we're really in there. And
Lovely English term, snogging.
Snogging,
Again,
great,
snog.
exactly. And what unfortunately that does, it basically makes us want to nest with the person.
Mhm.
And that nesting instinct often will trump logic and good decision making
So
abilities.
you're saying what? Take at least a month before engaging in sexuality
That's
with
what
a
I'm
new person?
saying.
A month?
I mean, listen,
So
everyone
no third
has
date,
their
unless it's like
no,
once a week.
everyone has their own moral compass, but I really believe, or their own decisions about having sex or not to have sex. I really believe that if you're looking for a long-term person in your life, that you take the time with the sex.
And I've heard the opposite. I've heard from people, not psychotherapists, but
Yeah.
people who are in the business saying,
Got to test it
actually,
first.
if you're really hot for somebody, get it out of the way and then get down, then you can, because otherwise all you're going to do is think about it, and you're just in a sort of trance of sexual tension all the time for that month. You're not paying any attention to who the person
we are
is.
sentient beings.
Get it out of the way.
No, we are
Get it out of the
sentient
way
beings.
and then get to know them.
No, I don't buy it. I mean, honestly, if you're asking my opinion, I feel, and I've done this for 20 years, working with people who are dating, working with people in couples, take time before the sex happens. Take a moment, get to know them, get to know what they're into, have really, live passionately without the sex. In other words, get to know each other, share your hobbies, find out who each other is, find out what their, ask about their relationship with their families, with their mothers, with their fathers.
This sounds like a DE Harmony questionnaire.
So don't fall in love with someone's potential.
Big
what
time.
you think
Yeah, exactly.
that is, because you may be high on the love drug.
Absolutely, and you're like, oh, she's got such potential, and she has such great plans. Meanwhile, fully in debt. Meanwhile, can't get their act together, living in the basement, of their parents' home, and they're just such, they're so great, and they've got great plans. Let's see them don't believe what they're saying, believe what they're doing. Believe the actions versus the saying. And, it's not about, they've got to be realized, but let's just see, are they follow through? Are they someone who's in deep debt? Do they have a respect for money? Do they have a respect for boundaries? Do they have are they in touch with themselves? Are they manipulators? Are they narcissists? Are they, let's find out all that before we get in there.
Don't you really need to know somebody quite a long time?
But you can tell within a month, I would say, about some of these patterns. You're not on your best behavior for a month. I say see people during that month.
Do you think people are honest at the outset? When you start dating somebody, do you really think you're getting, I think you're getting this beautified picture of who they are because they're presenting their best self.
Yeah. Challenge them. And if they're putting on a show, you'll know. Listen to your instinct. You'll know. It's just...
My instinct isn't working.
Okay, so what should Christine have learned about influences from her past relationships? I mean, she seems very aware of...
Well, you said alpha male is your big chemical attraction.
Yeah.
I would be asking you to challenge that particular habit and pattern. It's a neural pathway, and neural pathways are changeable through challenge, through exposing yourself to new information, it is all about... I don't care how old you are, you can challenge your patterns and your thoughts and your behaviors through deep dialogue with self.
Okay,
I love
what
journaling.
does challenge mean? Does
Well,
it mean I should say,
ask yourself, okay, so there's a
forget
pattern.
this, let's
No,
find a beta?
You do this. So there's a pattern within me that is very attracted to these alpha males. And I go, okay, so what does that pattern feel like? Literally talk to yourself. What does that pattern feel? Well, what do you feel when there's that alpha male energy around? It's like I feel protected,
I'm interested and I'm
Engaged.
I'm
What did you say?
intellectually
instead of horny.
No, I'm
Yeah.
intellectually horny. Because
Right.
there's sort of
There's something
I can
there.
communicate.
So you're getting something from that.
Somebody who's bright, somebody who's
And you're
on
getting
the
what
ball.
from that? You're getting...
I don't know what. I'm just interested.
You're interested, you're not bored, you're
Yeah.
experienced. Okay.
I'm
so,
engaged. I'm totally engaged.
Exactly. And there's something that you might emotionally get from that. You might feel somehow self-esteem boosted from that. You have to challenge, you have to really understand what the motivation is. That's what I say, understand your motivations. Understand what your motivation is regarding anything.
Okay,
And-
but you've got to be careful that you are not getting into that kind of relationship just to stop from being alone.
I'm a big fan of that. Yes, please. Yes, that's the emotional dumpster diving that I talk about. Where we we'll do anything to not be alone, and I see engage in affairs so not to be alone, saying yes when we don't want to say yes so as not to be alone, pleasing the disease to please so as not to be alone, performing, being a certain character so as not to be alone. I really want people to be okay being in a relationship with themselves on their own.
Well, lots of people aren't.
I know.
I am
I know.
perfectly okay with being alone. I'm
Wonderful.
quite. I mean, I I love people.
Yeah.
But I quite enjoy my time on my own.
Excellent.
I'm not. This is not a reaction to.
You don't feel
being
less
alone.
than with being on your
No.
own. No.
But I know lots and lots and lots of women are. And because things have changed, they never expected to be divorced.
Right.
They're concerned about all
Sure.
kinds of things: security, money,
Absolutely.
being protected.
You said something that tweaked me
Yeah.
there, and what you just said was people have affairs because they're lonely.
Yeah.
I know a lot of women in particular that feel they aren't communicating with their husbands. They aren't getting the communication
Yes.
support.
Yes.
And basically they just want someone to actually talk to.
Yeah.
It's not so much a sex thing. It's an emotional affair.
Yeah, and there's the emotional affair that, I say it's a slippery slope. The emotional affair does turn into the physical affair. I see it quite often, and I have to say that if things are not happening in the marriage, please don't go and have an affair. Try and either be courageous enough to work it out or leave it, because the double life thing, the lying, it's a soul killer. It's a soul killer, and I just see so much of that go on.
So when would you say to somebody that they should be careful? Because we all have friends, we have male friends, we have female friends on both sides. When should the danger signal be resonating with you?
As soon as you're starting to, text all the time with them and prioritize them in your mind and have them as part of your, have them as, the main person that you emotionally connect with and feel your sense of comfort with. Ooh, wah, 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 danger, 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 danger. You're going down the road of the affair.
Except we often have girlfriends that we have that relationship with, that we confide in.
Yes,
that we
fine. That's fine.
Just not the guy.
The guy
Not
is
the
the
guy
one is
friend.
the one is the one that's going to be the thing that's going to totally make you go into that double life land and lying land, and that's the soul kill land that I have seen. Have the bravery to confront what's happening in the marriage.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the question.
Okay.
Can men and women just be friends?
I absolutely think they can.
And they're without any sexual overtones?
Oh, there's always a sexual overtone, but I think discipline is an important piece.
Mm-hmm.
I think we don't have to just be instinctive, sexual. No, yes, there's a sexuality, there's an attraction, but you just some emotional discipline, some physical discipline. I think that nothing really is healthy without discipline. I have to say, I think it's important that we, operate from that full place.
So, your book.
Yes.
You've written a blog post, we should say. It's up on our
Yes.
website. That's whatshesaid.radio.com for us about some of these things. But who will your book most resonate with? Who should read your book, other than everyone?
No. Well, people who are in the dating world, entering the dating world, beginning or at it again a second or third time. I really talk about the rules of dating in an empowered way. Then I've got the premarital checklist. So if you're about to get married and you really want to, get clear on some of the things that need to happen regarding marriage and you want to clean up some stuff. Then the relationship rescue 911, how to fight. So people who have fighting issues, repetitive fighting issues, I have some really good techniques in there to fight in a fair way. And then long-term passionate, what are the actual tenets of a long-term passionate marriage. And then I actually have a really interesting case study which I love called Healthy Divorce. So people
Healthy divorce.
Yeah, people do get divorced, and it doesn't have to be rabid and horrible and vindictive.
They can consciously uncouple.
Well, and they can do it in a way that's not about perpetuating cycles of dysfunction. I love my case study because the men in this case study talk about how they don't want their kids to experience pain that they themselves experienced in their divorced family. So it's very, very interesting. And to me, this book is about people who are, it's called Connecting, Rewire Your Relationship Culture. It's about if you're interested in connecting and doing it in a healthy way, whether it be dating, whether it be before marriage, whether it be marriage, whether it be divorce. It's all about healthy. What gets me up in the morning is helping people not perpetuate cycles of dysfunction multi-generationally.
And where can people get your book?
So I'm doing a book signing at Indigo Young in Eglinton on Saturday. I'm doing a book signing at Indigo Bay and Bloor on Sunday, V-Day, Valentine's Day. And my book is available all over the Indigos in the west of the country, in the east of the country, some of the independent bookstores, McNally, and also Amazon, and my website, visualizationworks.com, because visualization does work. Visualization works.
Sounds wonderful.
Just don't get into meditation with Christine. She's
No.
not a
No.
meditator. No. Give her a bottle of Prosecco, it's all good.
How about visualization? Visualization works.
Visualize that tall, dark,
Yeah,
wonderful
exactly.
man. All right. Thank you very much for coming in and
Ladies,
telling
thank
us
you
all
so
about it.
much.
Click the channel subscribe button for full-length interviews and more from What She Said here on YouTube.